Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video. Ignition Zone is a channel that focuses a lot on LEGO and Bionicle content. I have an ongoing podcast called Toa Talk where I feature many people from the community. Some you may find familiar, and some you would have never discovered otherwise. I make a lot of videos on MOCs, specifically tutorials, along with showcasing my own and other people's. Stop motion and other episodic media is also another genre of videos I've been looking to get into. So if any of that may interest you, please feel free to subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please make sure to leave a like. And if you didn't like it, leave a dislike, as engagement really helps out the channel. Today we're going to be talking about knockoffs and why you should use them, or at least consider using them for a lot of your MOCs. I've been in the LEGO knockoff scene probably since around 2017 or 2018. There are some that are really great, and then there are some that are not so great. But what I often look for in a LEGO knockoff is an alternative solution to a part that might be super expensive on the secondhand market, or maybe it's for a part that LEGO has never produced in a certain color, or a whole new part entirely that LEGO has never even made, which could be really useful in MOC making. And I'll also discuss the pros and cons of using them. I do actually have some physical examples for this video as well. Often when it comes to knockoffs, the biggest concern for a lot of people is the quality, and I think this definitely depends on who you buy from. While I would say generally about 99% of the time, at least these days, the quality has gotten very impressive. It's to the point now where you can almost not distinguish it from the real thing unless you buy minifigures or something like that. The key difference that you will almost always be able to tell on a knockoff, to tell you that it's a knockoff, is that there is no LEGO logo anywhere on the piece, specifically on the studs. So while quality isn't the biggest risk anymore, I would say personally, I still think there are some vendors that you should rely on more than others. I've never personally ordered from the site, but I've heard Bricknut offers a lot of different variety in pieces, along with some official LEGO pieces as well. I would highly suggest watching IDS Studios' video on Bricknut, as you can get 20% off your order by using the link he has in his description. Websites I often buy my knockoffs from are yourwob.com. On this site, it's free shipping, and they offer all of GoBricks' products. I've also purchased from WeBricks before. WeBricks has a lot more variety, but it does cost some money in shipping depending on where you live, and their processing time takes a lot longer, but it's a really nice spot to get all your parts all in one place, or at least most of them. I'm actually working on a Karzani MOC thanks to these websites. I'm not sponsored or anything. These are the sites that I use, and I want to share those with other people. And I do often buy parts from AliExpress from various vendors. Most of the time, these vendors will use GoBricks products or other knockoff products known throughout the community. I would personally recommend checking the ratings of the shops you buy from before purchasing. AliExpress also doesn't take too long to ship anymore. It used to usually take like a month or two, but now it's usually about a few weeks, which is quite good because you don't want a MOC project taking you like a whole year to actually complete. That's been a huge problem for me over the years, so this helps reduce that issue. So the biggest pro of using knockoff parts are definitely the recolors. This is one of my most popular MOCs I've made, which is the Metrotorin redesign, which takes a lot more elements from the movie version. And in case you're wondering which pieces are legit and which ones aren't, I'd say a good 95% of these pieces are bootlegs, obviously aside from the Bionicle ones that bootlegs do not exist in currently at the moment. If I were to use strictly vanilla LEGO parts, not only would I have had to change the color scheme drastically on this figure, but it would cost me a lot more money as well, as these gray CCBS limb pieces only came on the General Grievous figure, and maybe if you buy one or two of them, it's not too bad. But obviously on a build like this that uses about 8 of them, and someone like me wants to army build these guys, that's going to make the cost of these through the roof, and just not feasible at all unless if my bank account is like Mr. Beast's. And honestly, I'm really happy with how this figure turned out. There's a few minor issues with it that I'll have to fix later, maybe through some borderline illegal methods, but overall this build would not have been possible without the use of knockoffs. And aesthetically and even structurally, I'm very happy with this build. It's super stable, but there is one piece on here that LEGO has not made themselves, and that is this back of the neck here. I've talked about this part many times on the channel. It is the one length toe ball socket piece here. I cannot begin to explain to you how much this thing has come in handy, specifically when it comes to adding more posability to older Bionicle sets, and especially smaller Mocs. As you can see, the plastic quality on this piece is very, very, very good. It feels pretty much the exact same as a Lego piece. I'm unsure this is ABS plastic, but regardless, it's very, very similar, if not the same texture and quality. And I really hope that with a lot of people buying this piece from third-party retailers, that Lego will actually make a piece like this, if not just use the same design. This is probably the most useful third-party piece I've ever come across, and it's one that I use all the time in my digital Mocs. And when I plan a digital Moc, when I make it, I have in mind that I will most likely make it in the future at some point or another. So for practicality reasons, this part is a absolute godsend, especially for this Matoran build here. A major flaw that I see in a lot of other people's Mocs when it comes to revamping or using older aesthetics from the early Bionicle years is that when they use these purest and vanilla methods, they often make the neck too big, or it just simply doesn't move at all. And you'll have to make the choice between one or the other. And even if a Moc builder finds a good in-between, the thing ends up being quite fragile and the neck just falls off. So this is a massive help when it comes to that. You can also use these pieces to modify your original Bionicle sets that aren't Mocs, such as the Toamata or the Toanuva. These are quite useful for stop motion, and the piece has a lot of good friction on it, so don't expect it to flop around. Now let's talk about some of the reasons why you maybe wouldn't want to use knockoffs. Some of the time, I'm not saying that I've experienced this personally, but this is something I have heard from other people that do buy knockoffs that I think is maybe worth mentioning when it comes to construction builds, is that sometimes certain ball pieces might potentially stretch the sockets of certain joints, depending on who you buy the pieces from. If you buy from the ones that I suggested, you probably won't encounter this issue, most likely. But it is worth taking into account as the quality control isn't as great as massive corporations like Lego. Again, I haven't encountered this issue, but a few people I know have on a very, very minor scale. It won't break your parts or anything, but I know some people will have issues with that. So another issue with knockoffs is when it comes to potentially reselling. This is really only a problem if you piece together a build that's an official build, using mostly or some knockoff pieces for pieces that might be too expensive to actually obtain. Again, if you're using these just for display purposes, stop motion, or anything like that that's not reselling, then I don't think this should be an issue at all. But when it comes to reselling either sets or potentially even Mocs, it is important to disclose that there might be some knockoff use in here. I'm pretty sure you can't even list your build or your set on Bricklink if it has any type of knockoff piece or third-party piece. So if you are going to do that, make sure to let the buyer know, and also make it front and center and very obvious by listing it in the title or the description of the listing. When it comes to Mocs, I guess like you can list the prices whatever you want, but again, it's probably good just to tell the interested buyer that they are going to be purchasing pieces that are knockoffs and non-official Lego. If they're purchasing a Moc at that point, then it shouldn't be a problem for them, but again, it's just nice to let people know. Another concern that people would have is that these might get mixed in with their official pieces. To that I say, be better organized. I keep all of my knockoff parts in separate bags. Usually when you buy these parts, they just come in plastic bags anyway, so this really isn't an excuse to get them mixed up with your official stuff. And if they do happen to get mixed up in your official stuff, remember, they don't have the Lego logo on them, so despite the quality maybe being similar, if not the same, that is a very clear indicator that it might not be official. If you're someone that's thinking about getting into knockoffs or at least trying it out, I highly suggest that you do, especially if you make Bionicle Mocs. When it comes to system, I can understand why you would like to stray away from using knockoff pieces. Maybe if you're just in it for making system style Mocs, I would just suggest maybe getting some recolors that Lego doesn't offer, but other than that, yeah, I can see why you wouldn't want to use them entirely, other than for budgetary purposes. And that's another thing too that's really important with this video, is how expensive Lego and especially secondhand Bionicle is getting. For instance, if you are a brand new fan, first off, congratulations. I also feel quite sorry for you as you've missed out on the golden years of collecting, as everything is inflated to shit now. So to those new people, I highly, highly suggest using knockoffs when it comes to Bionicle. Because most likely if you're a Bionicle fan, you're most likely not going to resell your stuff anyway. Like I mentioned in a previous video, there are many official retail items that are practically almost unobtainable now, but there are some really great, fantastic knockoff substitutes, such as for the Kanohi Ignika in Pearl Gold. That's a pretty big one. Also, the How being reused in other colors such as turquoise and purple. So, sites like Lee's should help you a lot when it comes to mock making or potentially even parting out sets using knockoff parts. And I should also throw in there that using a knockoff in a recolor that Lego does not offer always 100% of the time looks better than a painted piece. Painted pieces often only really look good if it's like a custom mask or something. But when it comes to custom pieces that are socket or ball joints, they often crack pretty fast, especially if you put paint inside the socket or ball piece itself. So to save you the cracking and to make your mock look a little bit more legit, it's probably not a bad idea just to cave in and get some knockoffs for those certain pieces if they come in those colors. Which, I mean, I think it should be pretty soon where we'll have most of Bionicle G1's parts in as knockoffs that are also widely available. Not to mention, hobbies like 3D printing are becoming a lot more accessible and easier to do. Not to mention the quality for that's also getting way, way better than it was before. Essentially, when it comes to Bionicle, and possibly even Lego itself, customs are the future. Third-party custom figure manufacturers for themes such as Lego Star Wars are more popular than they ever have been and look way better than they ever have been. All I'm saying is that Lego has some competition, and they could potentially lose out on a lot of money if they don't start catching up. But feel free to let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Remember, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, and if you didn't enjoy it, please leave a dislike. And I'll see you guys in the next one.